We have to start today's passage by remembering that Jesus is no longer in Galilee or Judea. He's on a 6-month wandering journey through the regions of Samaria and Perea. He's been run out of his hometown in Galilee and hunted in Jerusalem and Judah. Most of the Jews who had followed his teachings have abandoned him because his teachings have gotten pretty difficult to hear. But there's a band of followers that are still at his side, and we know that they include the 70 or the 72 disciples that Jesus will send out as scouts in a few days. Just a couple of lessons back, some of those messengers were sent into a Samaritan village to see if Jesus would be welcome there, and the answer was a resounding no. This is the rabbi who actually took time to visit Samaria and heal its citizens, and he's not even welcome there. Run out of Galilee, hunted in Judah, and now he's being turned away in Samaria. He has nowhere to call home. On top of that, Jesus knows that crucifixion is waiting for him in Jerusalem when he arrives there. To say these are difficult days is an understatement. And it's in the face of all that rejection and abandonment and the knowledge of his fate that our lesson begins. One of the traveling companions in Jesus' entourage approaches him almost as if to offer solace. And he says, "Hey, I'll follow you. I'm still committed." Jesus says, "Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." Then Jesus turns to another man in his small band of traveling companions and offers him the chance to remain as a true disciple. The man answers, "Let me first go and bury my father." It's a process that could take months, even years. In short, the guy's saying, "I'll follow you as soon as I've taken care of my social and legal responsibilities." The timing just isn't right. Jesus' response is difficult for us to understand, but it would have been crystal clear to the Jews of the day. See, burial was a legal obligation, and Jesus had spent years preaching that the law was designed to show us how disconnected we'd become from God. So he says, "Let the dead bury the dead," or "Let people whose affections are toward earthly legal things deal with the earthly legal things. You keep your attention on the things of heaven and go and proclaim the kingdom of God." Finally, a third guy steps up and volunteers for the job, but with a caveat. He says, "I'll follow you, but I need to go home and say goodbye to my family." Now, look, whether he's looking for his family's accolade or he truly gets what Jesus is saying and understands that he's volunteering for a life of homelessness and rejection, I don't know, that's a matter of debate. In either case, Jesus' response is as easy to understand as it can possibly be. He tells the guy, "You can't be a true disciple if you have divided affections. You can't put your hand to the plow and then look back wondering if you made the right choice." So there's our scenario. That's our passage for today. But there's one more key fact that we have to get on the table if we're going to understand it clearly and apply it productively. It's this: a disciple, a true full-time follower of a rabbi, would have one singular goal in life: to be exactly like the rabbi. So when Jesus is fielding requests and offering invitations to become true disciples, he has to remind our three candidates who he really is, and just how far short we all fall when we compare ourselves to him. Let me explain. If we boil down these three conversations, we get a picture, not just a picture of the three men, we get a picture of Jesus. First, Jesus had fully embraced self-denial and homelessness in the world because his home was with the Father. Second, when the time came for his arrival in our story, he immediately surrendered in self-sacrifice and gave everything to the work of the Father and the proclamation of the kingdom. And third, Jesus had a single affection that trumped all others: his love for the Father and therefore his love for us. This story isn't a list of qualifications that a person has to meet if they're to be loved and accepted by God. Jesus already met those conditions. And according to Ephesians 1:4, because we are in him, we now stand before God in love. Instead, this is Jesus taking the time to remind us just how glorious he really is, and then giving us a picture that we can shoot for as disciples if we truly want to be like the rabbi. I think I can best sum up my view of this passage by addressing what we typically call it. Normally, people refer to this passage as the cost of following Jesus. But I think we might be able to better see it if we refer to it as the cost of being Jesus. If we truly want to be His disciples, then we have to see Him as He truly is. So what needs to change in us? In me or in you? I'll leave you with a quote from Alfred Edersheim regarding this encounter. He says this: "There are critical moments in our inner story when to postpone the immediate call is really to reject it." So is He calling you today?